Welcome to O People of the Book YouTube channel.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله
Oh, People of the Book YouTube channel.
نبرات شعري سطرت لمداد حبري والقلم نبرات شعري سطرت لمداد حبري والقلم نبرات شعري سطرت لمداد حبري والقلم هيا قصائد سائلي قلب النوى ليس الشبم هيا قصائد سائلي قلب النوى ليس الشبم
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulullah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to O People of the Book, the usual Saturday show from Monogamy to Polygamy. Don't know if this camera is better or should I use this camera? One second. You remember before I used to play around with different cameras, and this is a webcam actually, so I think the webcam and the other one is my GoPro camera. So yeah, let's do it. Anyway, we'll play around with them and see whenever it's needed. So I hope everybody's okay, and we're back again with our show, our usual weekly Saturday Saturday show. Now, last week we went through the ladies' psychology. We've gone through for the last 2-3 weeks, 4 weeks or whatever. We went through the woman's psychology. Now we're going to start with the men's psychology. Okay, we're going to start with the men's psychology. First, let me just see if I'm going out before I just kind of, as usual, I'm talking and yeah. Right. Okay. So it's going through what's the name? So that's okay. Okay. So now we're going to go through men's psychology. As I mentioned before, I am doing a course on marriage, Islamic marriage counseling. So obviously we have to go through the psychology of the woman, the man. We have to understand them. We have to understand both sides. And like I said, this show is not to attack anybody or say this person is wrong, that person is right, or whatever. It's mainly to help our Muslim brothers and sisters who want to get into polygyny and maybe doing it wrong, and the sisters and whatever, the sisters and the brothers. There is a need out there. There is a need for polygyny out there. We have brothers and sisters who are going through zina. We have a lot of stuff like that, with divorces. Our sisters who are divorced, are widowed and everything. What do we do with them? So this is why I decided from a long time after I did the fiqh and fiqh, sirah and aqidah series and everything. I decided to go through this because as we are seeing in front of our eyes, there's so many things that are going on, so much divorce that is going on. 1 second, let me just see if a little bit. I think this is better. Yeah, I think this is better. Anyway, so yeah. So as I said, I decided to take it on myself and share the information, share the news, share the knowledge that I have between you. So anyway, if you have any questions, I'm not a sheikh. I'm a student of knowledge. I've sat with the sheikh and I've done bachelor's in Islamic studies. So what I can share with my brothers and sisters to help them, I'm ready to do that. So anyway, before we go into the book itself from Monogamy to Polygamy, the book that we usually go to, I usually like to read you other stuff from outside, what I've gone through during the week and everything. And I think I did mention to you that there is a book called Wives Rather Than Mistresses. This is written by a Muslim brother, and wives rather than mistresses. If you want to take down the name, and it's written by, just a minute, it's written by, let me get up to the top there, because now I might write down the bottom. Okay, it's written by Hamdi Shafiq. Yeah, I don't know if it's out on the market because I tried to look for it and it's not there. Maybe it's written just in PDF. If you can get hold of it, alhamdulillah, it's a very interesting book, and it goes through a lot of the situations where you have, like, I think I read before about the leaders and everything, how they prefer to have mistresses than to actually, because they don't believe in Islam, and they prefer to go to and have mistresses than actually get married. And the thing is that like we keep saying, that they want to hinder polygyny, which is halal, but yet they have no problems with having affairs here and there, and having girlfriends and boyfriends here and there. So this book actually talks about that. I think one time I recalled the story of President Mitterrand of France, where when he died, his mistress was standing there, and people saw two people in black, and they're thinking like, who is that? Who is that other woman in black? And that other woman was actually his mistress, and I think she was Swedish or something. Yeah, I think she was Swedish as far as I can remember. So, they prefer that. They prefer to have mistresses and everything than to, make it halal and, make it halal and hang on a minute. Why is my camera different on my camera that's showing? It's a different angle on YouTube than what it is on well, it doesn't matter. Anyway, let's carry on. Yeah, so they prefer to have affairs and stuff like that than to go the halal way. So what I'm trying to do is, I've read so many stories in our Facebook groups and everything about sisters who are cheating, brothers who are cheating and everything, outside of polygamy. So they're not in polygamy, but they prefer to cheat. So this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made polygamy halal. So you don't need to cheat, you got it halal. But then again, you've got brothers who are, sisters specifically, who are against polygamy, who don't want to know about it. Last week, I think I posted one of the Sheikh Jabiri, who mentioned that for a sister to be totally against the word of Allah, it is haram. She might have some personal, dislike for it or whatever, but not have a total against polygyny, because it's the work of Allah. So I went through that, and I went through a few things. Anyway, so now let's go through this book. Okay, this book that I'm talking about now, which is before we get to the book from monogamy to polygamy. They like to call it polygamy, but I prefer to stick to the word polygyny, because polygyny is more what applies to us, Muslims. Anyway, it mentions here in 1994, Chinese doctor Li Zizhu, I don't know if I'm butchering his name now, released an interesting book in the US about the life of the Chinese leader Mao Zedong, called The Barbaric Life of Chairman Mao. The book is exclusively devoted to Chairman Mao's private life, as closely seen by Dr. Li, who was the Chinese leader's private doctor. Li says in his book that Mao Zedong was the absolute governor of one of the world's most powerful nations. He was a communist tyrant whose orders could not be checked and caprices had been meekly yielded to. He was a savage who was never satisfied with sex, changing girls as simply as he changes socks and shoes. He would throw noisy balls arranged by his assistant to pick up whomever girls he desires from the hundreds of girls attending. Now, obviously, like, this is not a Muslim way of life, but you have Muslims who do fall in this type of stuff. Yeah, going to balls and parties and having many women here and there and everything, not wanting to take the halal side of it, not wanting to go into, like, polygyny and giving the wife her rights, her dignity or whatever, but who organizing balls. This is Mao Zedong I'm talking about. I'm not talking about our usual brothers. But when we take an example from there, and like apply that to us. The author, Doctor, further relates that Chairman Mao believed that sex was the only way to prolong life. I don't deny that. I mean, like, obviously, like, there's a lot of statistics about that as well. So maybe you should look into that for their sisters who are depriving their husbands of the conjugal bed. Yeah, so maybe that's something that you need to look into. He developed a lot of contagious venereal diseases and took much delight in communicating the disease to as many Chinese girls as possible. Okay. Strangely enough, boast having contracted strangely enough, Chinese girls who would, strangely enough, boast having contracted the disease. The only evidence of having met the Chinese leader. Now, this is one thing that we have to be very careful. Like, brothers who like, to cheat and sleep, with sisters outside and then come to their wives. What if you bring them these, what's the name, diseases to your wife? We have to think about that. We are Muslims and we have to act them as Muslims, and this is the advantage of having the halal polygyny. So when we have a halal polygyny, your wife knows who you're with. If you tell her, if you don't hide it from her, obviously, she knows who you're with. She knows when you will be with her, and she knows you're not around, like, sleeping around, and then you will bring disease to her, kind of thing. So this is one of the reasons Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made that halal kind of thing, Anyway, let's continue. Right. President Carlos Menem of Argentina has also been involved in countless sexual encounters, with world newspapers daily uncovering his scandals. Though such scandalous stories have not, of course, deterred him. Having failed to curb his scandalous adventures, his wife has had to get divorced in the wake of the crushing dispute. So this again, Again, we mentioned about this, that without polygyny, which they're trying to ban, which they have banned in so many countries already anyway, but yet you're seeing how these affairs are leading to divorce. No problem for them. No problem. Get divorced and break up families or whatever, but don't go the halal way. Don't go the halal way. That which, according to them, will cause oppression to the woman or whatever. But no, divorce is completely good for them. Break up the family, children go their own way, children lose their fathers and everything. That's completely okay for them. You see, this way we see the disconnect is what happens, like, when you enter into halal situation and you're in the haram situation. I'm not saying that divorce doesn't happen with the Muslims. It happens a lot with Muslims, and this is why now polygyny brings us shelter, brings dignity for our sisters who are divorcee and who are actually widows. Yeah. I think I put a lot of emphasis on marrying with widows, not that much on divorcees, because, like, I find that, like, everyone has a reason for being divorced, and most of the time you find, like our sisters, like, could have been forced into marriages. They could have, like, had bad husbands and abuse and everything. But if you look at the statistics, you'll find that most of the divorces in the West from the Westerners. I'm not saying that, like, our sisters are the ones who do that, but in the West, you will find that most of the divorces are actually initiated by the sisters themselves. So, like I said, I'm not blaming our sisters, but there you go. So you will see that they prefer that type of life. They prefer that, like, the life of divorce and stuff like that, than to actually legalize polygyny. And during the last 9 lessons, I've actually 10 lessons, actually, because last week was lesson 10. Yeah. I've actually showed you different articles, different books, where so many countries are trying to bring back polygyny. Yeah, I showed you in Russia how the need for it is very, very very important there, that they have because it's a big country, and, like, they have farms, they have whatever, and they need men in their lives, and the women there are not married. You see how it is exceedingly important. Anyway, let's move to another case. As to the US leaders, one can talk limitlessly about their love affairs and sexual encounters. As the US people does not ever recognize anything as covert at all. So that's interesting, because, like, if they don't recognize anything as covert, so like, they will do it openly, basically. So there you go. And yeah, so I've changed camera, so I hope you noticed that. Yeah, I like this camera, actually. It's one of my best. My GoPro camera, I used to use it when I go swimming, when I go deep sea diving and everything. Anyway, so yeah, so it says here that 1 second. Bismillah. The US people is a scandal mongering people. It's generalizing. Salam alaikum, brother Ryan. Yes, it's Ryan. Yes, how are you? I hope everything's okay from your side, and good to see you again on my usual show. And you haven't missed much. I've just been reading about some of the leaders who have affairs and everything, and how that impacts their people. Anyway, so it says here the US people does not ever recognize anything as covert at all. The US people is a scandal mongering people, especially if there is a celebrity involved. That is true. We can see how they dig into the lives of the celebrities and whatever. Whatever the area they may be in, they do not place any lid on the publication. Again, my ear gets blocked every now and again. Anyway, especially if there is a celebrity involved, whatever the area is in, they do not place a lid on the publication by any means, whether it be the press, radio, or television, of any person, whatever his position, influence, or wealth. Books scandalizing the senior government or business people are lapped by the Americans and are bestsellers. See, so this is like entertainment for them, seeing how these people, their private lives, their affairs and everything is like entertainment for them. They enjoy that. Yeah. Whereas us in Islam, we keep this, like, we hide the sins of our brothers and sisters. It is Allah who judges them. So you see how these people like this type of stuff. So for them, it's nothing hidden. They will go into affairs here and there, but No polygyny though. They will ban polygyny and everything. Anything halal, they won't be happy with it. But the haram, no problem. They're happy with it. One such exciting book is Inside the White House. If you want to take that down, you can take it down and probably see if you can find it, if it's available online, or if you want to buy it and read it, no problem. Yeah. Inside the White House, authored by the famous US journalist Roland Kissler. Kissler, which is Kiss, Kissler. In his book, Kissler pursues the whims and love affairs of most of the presidents of the world and most powerful. Sorry, let me start again. In his book, Kissler, my ears, I don't know why. When I read loud, my ear gets blocked. Yeah, so it affects me. In his book, Kissler pursues the whims and love affairs of most of the presidents of the world's most powerful country, down to the minute details of the sexual infidelities conducted by each of them. So we see that, they have no haya, they have no shyness or whatever in them, and they go into affairs and whatever. And on one side, they're banning polygamy, polygyny. If you talk about polygyny to them, no way, and whatever, they will not entertain that. But behind everyone's back, they're having affairs. You're going to see there was a very it mentions it in this book as well, which I'd like to remind you for for those of you who are coming in a bit late, wives rather than mistresses, which is a very interesting book written by this brother. Okay, and in there he also mentions, I don't know whether any of you have watched the Ahmadiyyat debate. Yeah, there's a debate by Ahmadiyyat, and there were when he debated Swagat, and Swagat mentioned that you Muslims are allowed to have more than one wife, while we have only we have only one wife, and when we pick the right one. And it happened that after a few months or whatever, he got disclosed, he got exposed, and Sheikh Ahmadiyyat spoke about him, that he was having an affair. On one side he's trying to crush Islam, on one side he's trying to say that Islam engages in polygyny and everything, and on the other side he was having an affair himself. And so you see how hypocritical it is. So anyway, in such book it talks about these infidelities. The ugly president of the US, Lyndon Johnson, made love to 5 or 8 secretaries he had at the heart of the White House. 5 or 8 women plus his wife. He's got his wife, plus he had affairs with these women, and they found nothing wrong with it. They found nothing wrong with it. It was absolutely okay, and they went along doing their daily chores as if nothing happened. Yeah, he would ferret for pretty women among the reception crowds. When he found out one, he sent one of his aides to bring her to him, as presidential wishes have to be made true. President wishes have to be ordered, obviously. So he sent people out to find these women for him and bring them in his office. SubhanAllah, and then they're telling us that every time you have a discussion with a non-Muslim, your president, your prophet has so many wives, and this and that and the other, but they don't look at what they are doing. They don't look like what their polygyny, their affairs and everything. But they will talk about the polygyny in Islam. They will talk bad about it anyway. One day, Lady Bird, President Lyndon Johnson's wife, opened the door of the White House Oval Office to find her husband in a position of decent exposure with a secretary, right with the same office as he received visiting world leaders. Following a heated debate, the president called his personal guards and yelled at them that they should have done anything to stop her. One of them bravely replied, "We did not make any mistake. This is your problem alone." Yes, this is his problem, and he had the guts to shout at his staff why they let her in. So he wanted to do it in private, but yet his staff were to blame why that they let her in. Yeah. Now, obviously, one of them bravely replied, "We did not make any mistake. This is your problem alone." Yeah. So ban polygyny. Polygyny is not accepted for them, but in your office, get caught in some affairs that you're having. This is perfectly okay for them. So this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us polygyny as has given us polygyny as a way out, and still the West doesn't want to understand that. Notwithstanding, the U.S. president persisted in his brash behavior. All that he did was to order an early alarm system at the lift to warn him beforehand that his wife was on the way, so that he might not be caught red-handed in the very act of marital infidelity. So no problem. You can have infidelities as long as your wife doesn't notice. As long as nobody notices you have an alarm, like knock on the door, shout, bang on something or whatever, and inform him. As long as he doesn't get caught. This is the games that these people like to play. And yet us as Muslims were encouraging polygyny. And yet our sisters don't want to understand that. A lot of our sisters make an issue as if it's taboo and stuff like that. So I don't understand. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has found a solution for us, this solution is to take us out of the bad way, is to bring the right way for us. Yet you find a lot of our sisters who make an issue with polygyny as if it's taboo. Would you prefer your husbands do this? Would you prefer your husband has an affair outside? Does not get into a halal way, and he's having an affair in the office or whatever, but he's got a guard there to inform him as soon as you come, or you come to see your husband, or you phone or whatever, to find some sort of alarm, so that you don't catch him, or anybody else, so that the boss doesn't catch him or whatever. It's outrageous, basically, to think of something like this. Yet this is what's happening. So this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made polygyny halal for us. I mentioned last time in one of the other shows how Allah made them certain things haram. We went into the fiqh of it, how Allah made certain things haram because He knew there was bad in there, and how He made polygyny halal, because He knows that the good that was in there. And there is an ayah of Quran. I posted it in our group today, in our polygyny group. I can't remember I have to search for the reference, but the verse talks about qital fi sabilillah. It may not be you may not like it, because obviously nobody likes to go in qital and get killed or whatever, but it is good for you. There may be things that you don't like that are good for you, and there may be things that you like that are not good for you. This could be applied to polygyny as well, to our sisters, although this verse was revealed for qital, for battle and everything, but also it could be applied for polygyny. A lot of our sisters don't like polygyny; they hate polygyny, but there is goodness in there. Allah has put goodness in there, and I tried to explain to you in the last sessions on how this works. We're using fiqh and everything. How Allah banned things that are no good. President Johnson had love affairs with other female journalists and girls whom his assistants would pimp for him. On a single occasion, President Johnson brought 3 girls in one batch to his Texas farm and appointed them as White House employees to be at his beck and call. Okay, so we can see now these people prefer haram to halal, and and yet a lot of brothers. I think went through this as well. A lot of brothers are asking, about the laws in the U.S. whether polygyny is halal or haram. Polygyny, they is they don't like polygyny, but yet this is halal for them. This is halal for them. Polygyny in itself is a marriage. Okay, it's the same like a first marriage. Like your first marriage, you will have the same conditions, you'll have the same contract, you will have everything like the first nikah. Okay, so they don't recognize the one nikah. They don't recognize that. Most of the people, like I mentioned in the group, most of the people, they would live without marriage. Most of the non-Muslims, you'll find them living outside of marriage, living in sin or whatever. Or you will find those who are married, they'll be married under the civil marriage. Okay, you go to the civil office and you do marriage on paper. Okay, now nikah itself is not recognized. You can't come to the office and say, to the civil office, that I'm married as Islamic marriage only. They will not accept that. Yeah, if you want to bring your spouse into the country, they will not accept that as marriage papers. If you want to show, for example, if you're getting housing allowance or you're getting some sort of a allowance for the family, and you're married only in nikah, they don't accept that. You have to be married. What's the name? The civil marriage. So nikah itself, as the one marriage, is not accepted. So if one is not accepted, what's the issue of them banning the second one? You don't accept the first marriage in the first place. So how could the second one be banned? It's not logical there, is it? That means they don't accept nikah itself, whether first, second, third, or fourth. Yeah, I tried to explain to the brothers that, and the antediluvian Muslim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And how are you? And I hope everything is okay from your side. And we're going through the usual from monogamy to polygamy. And we're going through the book at the moment, Wives Rather Than Mistresses. And I was going through the fact that, these Western leaders, how they have affairs outside. And, these are the same people who are banning polygyny, yet they're going through affairs outside and everything. So anyway, if you haven't watched the whole series, maybe it's better if you go through my whole series. This is the 11th part. Anyway, President Franklin Roosevelt of the U.S., who came to power in 1933 and was re-elected for the third term of office in 1940, was highly womanizing. Although he moved on a wheelchair, his famous mistress was a woman identified as Lucy Rutherford. Hope I'm not butchering her name. He met her regularly when his wife Eleanor Roosevelt was away. So again, to show you that, they don't accept polygamy, but they do accept them, having affairs and stuff like that. This is Brother Muhammad. Oh, Muhammad, what's the name? Our brother Muhammad from I also yeah, right. Our brother Muhammad. I know. Right. So you've changed your kunya then. You've changed your kunya to the antediluvian Muslim. What is that word, man? You got a big word in there. Antediluvian. I've never heard of that before, but I've learned a new word from you today. So anyway, welcome to the show. Yeah, so we can see that Theodore Franklin Roosevelt, he used to have affairs with his what do you call it, mistress, when his wife was away. Okay, and there's a lot of our sisters, I mentioned that before as well, they wouldn't mind their husband having going into haram, as long as the family don't know about it. Oh, this is a taboo. Family shouldn't know about it, so I'll keep it quiet or whatever. You see, the same thing now. Yeah, this what's her name? Uh, these leaders. Now, Ruth, the former president, the former U.S. president's sister, the former U.S. President Carter's sister, was a Christianizing preacher. Can you imagine that now? She was a Christianizing preacher, and she was having an affair on the side. Subhanallah, these people, as otherwise called in the West, was a missionary activity. So she was a missionary. Yeah, she was not supposed to have sex on the side outside. Yet she was having an affair with the president of the United States. I think I have to hold my head when I think of things like this. You're banning polygamy. Polygyny is something that you don't want to hear about. Yet you're supposed to be a missionary. You're supposed to be going around preaching the Bible to people, but oh, hang on a minute, you're having an affair with somebody, so you're having haram. Well, they don't know halal and haram, these people, anyway. But all of a sudden, the truth unfolded. She was deeply involved in a sexual relationship with Germany's former chancellor, Willy Brandt. US and German newspapers extensively reported in detail on the love affair between the married preacher and the former German chancellor. They call it chancellor, or whatever, I don't know, chancellor, yeah? The Christian preacher's husband was the last to know about his wife's sexual infidelity. See? So this is the thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us what is called polygyny, and yet we have our women bickering about it. We have our society and everything bickering about it. Yet these people are going to haram. And it's okay, fine, no problem. And they're actually banning polygyny. They're banning polygyny. It's no good to have polygyny, but you can have what's the name outside. This one trying to open up the eyes of our brothers and sisters to show that, these same people who are making polygyny haram, these are the same people who are actually going into affairs and stuff like that. Experiencing the same situation was one of the most famous Christian preachers in the US. The entire world the entire world, namely clergyman Jimmy Swaggart, what I mentioned earlier on to you, who engaged in very famous debate with the Islamic preacher Sheikh Ahmad Didat. I mentioned that to you earlier on about Swaggart, who, his debates with Sheikh Ahmad Didat. The celebrated Christianizing preacher conceded, as major television stations in detail were interviewing him, that having a sexual relation let me start again. The celebrated Christianizing preacher conceded, as a major television station, as major television stations in detail were interviewing him about having a sexual relation with a prostitute. See, he's got his wife, and he was going to the prostitute. Yet on the other side, he was calling out, Muslims are going to go to hell. Muslims are going to go to hell. Allah is this, Allah is that. The Prophet ﷺ is that. Islam is this, Islam is that. Yet he was going to a prostitute. Yeah, this is this is the what do you call it? Hypocrisy of these people. However, it was Swaggart himself who would always, before being scandalized, preach virtue and show in a bad light the polygamy as well as other teachings introduced by Islam, while he himself was indulged up to his ears in filthy mire of sins which he would forbid his followers to even approach. Okay, hence Swaggart, who had talked abusively about the true Islam, has toppled over and fallen publicly. Publicly confessing that the circles of Christianizing preachers have always been the scene of the most horrible and repugnant prostitution, homosexuality, and marital infidelity, and say truth has now arrived and falsehood perished. For falsehood is by nature bound to perish. Okay, there was another Christian scholar as well, a Christian hater who was going around talking bad about Islam, and they were writing books about Islam. Zakaria something Zakaria, I can't remember his name, his full name or whatever, but he recently passed away, and he was one of those who was bashing Islam, bashing Islam, bashing Islam. When he died, they found that there was a prostitution ring or whatever that he was involved in, a lot of women and stuff like that and whatever. And these same people are bashing Islam. These same people are coming up and people are falling for them or whatever, quoting from them or whatever. Yet these same people were having, like, after they died, they found that, like, he had raped a lot of, I think, raped a lot of women, and, like, he had some sort of a ring of women behind him and stuff like that. I don't know the full story, so I don't want to fully go into it. I forgot about it. I hadn't read about the full story before. I'm just giving you the example of how, like, these people are, how they will bash Islam, they will bash polygyny, yet you will find that, like, they're having affairs and everything behind that. Anyway, so I think I'll stop this part in this book. Yeah, maybe next week we can carry on with the late President John Kennedy's adventures, and Robert Kennedy, and stuff like that, like, George Bush and all that. We can go on to these next week. This was just an example to give you about these people, how, like, they mention that polygamy is wrong, yet they will have what's her name? Yet they will have affairs, and, like, they would prefer to have haram relationships than to make the halal legal. Yeah, they'll make it illegal in their countries. Yeah. Yet they themselves will fall in these haram relationships. So I hope this has helped you in a way to kind of, like, understand where I'm coming from now. Yeah, where I'm coming from, and how important it is to have such a thing as polygyny. Yeah, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made halal for us Muslims. And I think I've explained to you so many times that Allah has made it for women, not for men. Don't think that the man with his, little time that he can spend in bed, like, with his wife. Most men don't go more than 10, 15 minutes. If they do, like, these are, like, Superman, basically, that can spend so much time in one go with their wives. So it's not for the man, it's more for the woman. Yeah, that polygyny was made halal. Anyway, now we move on to the book from monogamy to polygyny, a way through. Yeah, and I had shown you before how the book looks like if you want to buy it or whatever, and, like, it's written by two sisters, and alhamdulillah, they give the ladies perspective to it. Anyway, sorry. Bismillah. Alhamdulillah. Talking like this makes your throat dry. Why do men desire to be married to more than one woman? I've had this question posed to me several times. Okay, why do you want another wife? Why? Now, a lot of sisters don't understand that men and women are built differently. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us differently. And, we shouldn't kind of compare each other, because, like, what Allah has made for man, although we're supposed to be equal, but what's made for man is different for what's made to ladies. Our body is different itself. Our mind is different. That's why we're going through the psychology of women, psychology of men, because the psychology is very important. Okay, so I request the sisters to stop asking this question. To stop asking this question. Why do you want another wife? Because it's we're going to go through it now, but it's obvious. Although this is a commonly asked question, this is our belief that more than wanting to hear the answer for it. This is our belief that more than wanting to hear for it, women are really searching for an answer to the emotional turmoil they are in. You see, so women have emotional turmoil, and they take polygyny emotionally. Men are the ones who are going to get up, go to work, and feed the family, protect the family, and bring sustenance and everything. So it's not the same as the women. The women will take it emotionally. Okay, so let me repeat this. Women are really searching for an answer to the emotional turmoil they're in. So when a woman asks you, why do men desire to be married to more than one woman, that means they've got some emotional issues, some emotional turmoil, and they're asking the question only to answer that. We say this because the answer to this question is not an easy one for the woman. In the throes of emotionality to hear the answer to the question of why men follow and have this desire can create a myriad of feelings, including guilt, because the answer can actually be found in the words of Allah and the words of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This can create a feeling of guilt because a Muslim woman should, of course, accept the words of Allah and His Prophet without questioning. I think I've been mentioning that several times, and I've been playing the thoughts of the ulama as well, where the sister has to accept it. She has to accept it. She cannot make issues about it. This is the word of Allah. Qala Allah, qala Rasul. Yeah, you can't go against qala Rasul, so you have to accept it. Now, this makes sisters feel guilty because they're on the receiving end, yeah. And this is why they would come up with excuses that polygyny is for men and not for women and stuff like that, without realizing. Let's just change the camera for a while. Okay, give us a little change. Okay, so anyway, so now, yeah. Okay, since many times this is not so easily done when discussing issues of polygyny, the Muslim woman often feels guilty. Okay, this question can also become overwhelming for the Muslim women. In her search for the answer, she lays the blame on herself. She assumes that the answer has something to do with her, and thus she deeply questions herself. But on the contrary, the answer does not lie there. Okay, as we know, yeah, a man does not take another wife because he doesn't love his wife. He doesn't take another wife. Usually, it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be like that. That he takes another wife because, his wife is not. You know, they come and start becoming the chef and, like, you know, cooking all sorts of big dishes for their husband. And I think I mentioned it the other day that there is a saying that the way to a man's heart is not by his stomach, but you know, you're aiming a bit too high. So, you know, men desire physical pleasure. This is, of course, no surprise. As all Muslim women should know, we are programmed, we are commanded to help control this desire by by our husbands call us, when our husbands call us, sorry. Okay. The verse that I read earlier on was Surah Ali Imran, verse 14. Okay. Allah wishes to lighten the burden for you, and man was created weak, cannot be patient to leave sexual intercourse with women. Okay, so Allah mentions that man is weak. Man was created weak, and he cannot be patient to leave the sexual intercourse with women. He has to have it. Yeah. Again, we see that Allah has created man with distinction, with a distinction different from women. At this point, a picture of man's nature has started to form. A part of answering the question of why is exploring Allah's mention of a reward for believing man in Jannah. In the Quran, he mentions the creation of creatures called al-hurrul ain. Okay, the hurul ain of Jannah, the maidens of Jannah. Yeah. So it will be, and we shall marry them to hur, fair females with wide, lovely eyes. Now, bear in mind one thing here: the non-Muslims attack us all the time about 72 females in Jannah, 72 females in Jannah. Now, if you go and look what what Jannah has they've been promised, there's nothing in there. Yeah, you'll strive hard in this world. Yeah, you will forbid yourself certain things that Allah has forbidden you. You will live a life of sanctity. Then, when you die, there's nothing for you. Allah has promised us something in Jannah, yeah, as a reward, and we shall be married to the Hurun Ain, but not as these Christians, you know, kind of exaggerate and make us think that we're living only for that. No, a Muslim lives, yeah, a practicing mu'min lives so that when he dies, he sees his Rabb. That is his main priority, not to have 72 women in Jannah. And the 72 as well is only for those who get killed in the battle of in the battle for the sake of Allah, not just for any Tom, Dick, and Harry. You know, it has to be made clear. Allah has created these fair females specially for Jannah to be a reward for believing men. There are more ayat regarding this creation for believing men, along with further explanation in hadith. However, what is important here is to point out that Allah has made the desire of women so much part of men that it is a part of their reward in Jannah. Now, one thing we have to bear in mind as well, I've been reading a few things and listening to a few people talk and everything about this. We're not saying here that women don't have desire. Yeah, women have desire just as men have desire. Women have desires as well. You have a lot of sisters that have been writing to brothers who are in this work of counseling and mentioning of their desires and everything, and how, like, you know, they have problems as well holding back their desires, and, like, you know, and this is why marriage is important. This is why polygamy is important, because if our sisters have got desires and then they end up not wanting to marry, what happens? You know, they fall in haram. When they fall in haram, then obviously, like, you know, it's not it's haram is how do I want to put it now? When you fall in haram, obviously you're on the road to hell. Yeah. Khutwat shaitan. That was a word that going through my mind, and I couldn't think what I wanted to say. So you will fall in khutwat shaitan, the path of Satan. So obviously now, like Allah has made them the man and women have desires, and this is why both of them, Allah has commanded both of them to get married. And a man is allowed to have more than one wife, although the woman has desires herself, then she should, they should sit down and talk with husband and wife, so that the man can fulfill his wife's desire. Yeah. Okay. Although it may be hard to read, it sometimes may be hard to make our hearts in line with what Allah has revealed. The reward is great. Upon our return to Allah, we will be glad for every moment of hardship and strife, inshallah. Everyone will be tested, and after every test, there is ease. We need to trust in Allah and trust that He knows what we do not know. Okay, we've reached the 1 hour mark, and I'd like to remind you that you're watching our People of the Book, and you're watching our Saturday usual Monogamy to Polygyny way through, trying to help our brothers our brothers and sisters to understand why polygyny, and why it is important for us, why Allah has made it halal for us to. Allah has made it that He has given us a solution not to fall in the haram. Yeah, not to fall in the haram. So here's your solution. Take it. A lot of sisters don't want to take it, and either they fall in haram, or the husband fall in haram, or whatever. So I'm not blaming the sisters. I'm not blaming our sisters. We all have weaknesses and everything inside us. And like we've mentioned here, it's difficult. It's very, very difficult for many sisters. But then the reward that Allah gives you is far, far, far greater than the actual issue that you're falling in. Okay? So yeah. We're talking about the hardship and the strife. Yeah. Everybody will be tested, and every test after every test there is ease. Inna ma'al usri yusra. Yeah, we need to trust in Allah and trust that He knows what we do not. Now, this is very important, because we have a lot of our sisters who tend to kind of their hatred of polygyny tends to show as if they're thinking that Allah is not wise in His decision. Yeah, in His decision to make polygyny legal, halal. It deserves to be mentioned that a woman should make every effort to accept polygyny for the sake of no longer fearing to read what Allah has revealed. May Allah make us all deserving of Jannah, and to keep us far away from Jahannam. Now, one thing that we have to bear in mind as well is that Allah has made it more easier on the sister. Okay, all you have to do is accept it. All you have to do is accept it. Accept it with your heart, although it's very difficult for you. It is the men who have to strive harder. It is the men who have to wake up earlier and take another job. It is the man who has to go through all the emotions of the sisters when the sister falls ill, if she's pregnant or whatever. It is the man who has to go through all that. Yeah. So the sister is asked here, yeah, that she should make every effort to accept it for the sake of no longer fearing to read what Allah has revealed, because she will be questioned on the day of Yawm al-Qiyamah as well. And if she has her refusal has in some way taken the husband to choose the haram path, because obviously she knows his wife is not going to accept, he's going to keep it secret from her. He might take a woman outside, not letting his wife know and everything. And all this is going to cause him lying. He's going to have to lie to her and everything. I'm not blaming it all on her. There are some men who, go over the top as well. But if the sister herself doesn't, agree to it and makes issues, then the husband will use that as an excuse. His wife doesn't agree, so he has to do it haram or whatever, or keep it secret. Yeah. So the answer to the question why can also be found in secular studies. As with the female nature, these studies find that the male is of different composition and makeup than the female. According to one study, some of these distinguishable differences are: males biologically have one innate orientation, a sexual one that draws them to women. We know that. We know that men are attracted to women, and whether they, he's married or not, he will be attracted to women some way or another. Yeah, a man is attracted to another woman by her beauty, by the way she speaks, and stuff like that. You know. So yeah. So anyway. Um, Yeah. Secondly, men are most focused on spatial visual matters than, and hence find more sexual incitement in the visual. Now, I have to bear in mind that a man, when he looks at something, he looks at a woman that attracts him more. Women are more geared towards either listening or reading. You send a woman a text of, how beautiful she is and whatever. This is going to catch her heart even more. This is going to this is or a woman reading a book, reading a text that has some sort of story in it, that's going to catch her heart even more. But man is attracted to the visual. Yeah, when he sees a woman, a beautiful woman, he gets attracted to that. Compared with women, men become romantically attached more easily. Apparently, the natural chemical PEA, penylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylphenylp doing that has a bigger impact on men than on women. I've got to search for that word and see what it means. Men have on average 10 to 20 times more testosterone than women, thereby increasing their sexual desires. This is something very, very important that I need to point out to the men as well. Many of our brothers are out there don't look after themselves. Yeah, don't look after themselves. They don't they want to get married. They want to get married to another wife or whatever, but they don't look after themselves, and their level of testosterone drops so drastically, and because they're not eating the right food or whatever. Then they get married to a woman who they cannot satisfy, and then the marriage breaks up. I've been advising brothers to make themselves be the best of themselves. Make yourself the best of yourself. Look after yourself. Eat good food. Do exercise. And for a while, I had neglected myself. Myself, I'm saying that because I wasn't well. I had medication. Medication was making me get fat, and in my mind, I wasn't well because I was always active. I used to do martial arts. I used to be very active and everything. And then suddenly, after illness, I end up not looking after myself. But then I sat down and I thought about it. I thought, no, I had to get back into the gym. I had to start eating properly and that, and this is very important. If you want a sister to kind of fall for you, then obviously you have to look after yourself. And I also mentioned that there are many men out there who want to get into misyara marriage. They want to get into a misyara marriage, yet they don't look after themselves. So how's the sister gonna fall for you and waiver her rights if you're not worth it, kind of thing? You have to give her something, to waiver her rights over. If you're a man who looks after yourself, you're apart from being romantic, apart from whatever, you're intelligent, you know your Quran, you know your Deen. These are important things as well. But at the same time, look after yourself, your body, look after your body. Look after the way you groom yourself. This type of thing, then the sister would have a desire desire for you. So men on average 10 to 20 times more testosterone than women, increasing their sexual desires. Okay, so we have the sexual desires, and I mentioned earlier on the sisters do as well. Men are likely to have ongoing relationships with more than one partner. Okay, the same study continues to say unquestionably, men and women are not the same in biology and emotions. That quote that I meant, these quotes that I mentioned above, are from Kirsten Lawrence, PhD, and in a book called "Love Without Fear: A Path Through Pain." Through Pain to Peace, chapter 11. Okay, so I think I'm going to finish here. Yeah, we've reached the 111 mark. Yeah, and we've reached the pay. Actually, no. Let me finish the quote I was reading, then we'll finish there. Okay, so it says here the same study continues to say unquestionably, men and women are not the same in biology, emotions, and most cultures typically reinforce the differences. On the whole, men and women appear to be complementary to each other by nature. And this is from Kirsten Lawrence, PhD, Love Without Fear: A Path Through Pain to Peace, chapter 11. So as I said, we'll finish here. I don't want to kind of stay too long with this. I know a lot of people's attention span is very little these days, and it's difficult for people to concentrate. But this is not TikTok live or YouTube live or whatever. This is actually educating our brothers and sisters. And usually, when you sit down in a class, sometimes my what do you call it, marriage counseling course goes 2 hours, 3 hours, 2.5 hours, and we have to bear it because it's a course. And this is kind of a course as well to help to help you learn them before you go into this. So that's why, you will see that, I go up to 1 hour 30 minutes, 1 hour and 20 minutes. Now I'm going to finish it at 1:15 for today. But I hope, you've actually picked up something from this. And next week we'll start on page 96. We'll start on page 96, and it says here, as understanding the female nature aids in comprehending women's reaction to polygyny, understanding the male nature aids in comprehending why they desire to practice polygyny. We're still on the why here now, yeah. For the men, we're still on the why, and it's a question that is asked by many sisters, and you will get your answers. So I hope this has been fruitful to you. I hope that you've gained a benefit from it. And as I usually remind you that, I'm only a student of knowledge, and if I made any mistakes, this is from me. May Allah forgive me, and make dua that Allah gives me the knowledge to share my more knowledge with you. And whatever good you got from it comes from Allah. Yeah, and may Allah make it easy on all of us. Everyone who wants to take the path of polygyny, I hope you're learning from this, and I hope that one day, even if I'm in my grave, that I will still benefit from what I've shared with my brothers and sisters, and brothers and sisters who've gone into polygyny as well. That through my teachings, through what they've read, what I've been teaching, that inshallah they will have proper marriages, and Allah will help them. So. Yeah, so for this week, we will finish here, and like I said, page 96, from monogamy to polygyny, a way through, and I suppose I'll finish here. Subhanaka Allahumma bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayka. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun ala al-mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and see you next week, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.